All right. Good morning, everyone. Today is Free Training Thursday. We have a fun session in store for you guys today, getting you guys familiar with some key terms and definitions for the OfficeTools product. Part of the program in the long run and getting to know it well is going to be to actually understand what you're looking at, how we refer to things, in the training team and sales team, and also when you're reading user guides and stuff like that, building up that foundation of what we're referring to, what those terms mean, can really take you guys a long way. So today's session isn't going to be based around a lot of functionality. It's going to be covering a very broad scope of things inside of the program and just getting you guys maybe a little bit more up to speed on what those things mean, and kind of building up your vocabulary for the OfficeTools product. So today, not too much of a slideshow for you. Basically, the main thing that we just want to touch on briefly here is the Abacus Maximus conference that's coming up July 9th through the 11th, which is a little under a month and a half away. So it's coming quickly. For those of you guys who haven't already signed up, here is some basic information. First and foremost, go ahead and visit abacusmaximus.com to get information. It's a 2-day session that includes keynotes, trainings, and breakout tracks. We're going to have a training resource center there, so you can come visit us at the training team, come ask some questions, see what's going on. We have that available. There's also CPE/CLE credits available. So if you come for the conference, you can walk away with some continuing education credit, and we'll give you guys some information at the conference on how you guys can claim that. We'll also have some exhibitors to help you guys maybe take your firm into the future. Various exhibitors, vendors, things where you can go ahead and take a look at, different ways to make your business maybe a little bit more efficient. So that's going to be there. We're going to have a couple of events there, including a pretty cool dinner event on July 10th. You definitely don't want to miss that. Tickets are on sale at this point. Go ahead and check out abacusmaximus.com for more information on that. Again, this is something that if you guys are OfficeTools users, you might be familiar with our Accelerate conferences or our OfficeTools users conferences that we've had in the past. This is basically substituting in for that. So if you guys have experienced those conferences, you'll know that they're a very good wealth of information. And one of the main things to realize is that you're going to be able to interact with other users of the program that are in your industry, learn from them, glean from them, see how they've accomplished what they do, talk to them in your guys' terms, because it's one thing to deal with us as a training team at OfficeTools. It's a whole nother thing to talk amongst your peers and see how the OfficeTools product has helped them transform their offices. So if it's not something you guys have been to, I highly recommend it. And if you have been, you know how beneficial it is. So again, abacusmaximus.com, go ahead and check that out for more information. If after this session you guys have remaining questions or you want a little bit more information on something that we covered, feel free to go ahead and email us. Our email is training@officetools.com. That comes to the entire training team. We'll get back to you pretty quickly. You can also visit abacusnext.com/support. That's a wealth of information for you, including access to the training and support teams. And also for upcoming webinars, if you want to see the slate of what's coming up, abacusnext.com/webinars. Please go check out our website, see what is up there. It's all for your benefit. So take a look and see if there's any webinars that are coming up for you or your staff members or your team that you'd like them to sit in on and get a good idea of what OfficeTools has coming up. abacusnext.com/webinars and sign up for those. So that's all I have for you on the slideshow. We're going to go ahead and jump in at this point to the actual program and start discussing some of these key terms and definitions. Get you guys up to speed on what some of these things mean. For those of you guys who have used OfficeTools, some of this might be redundant, but it's always good to kind of solidify what you already know. So first and foremost, first definition or key term that we want to bring up, we refer to it a lot in user guides and whatnot. You'll see it in the program, and a lot of people don't really know what it means, and we get a lot of questions on it. You'll see this term called AIMI. It's what we refer to as AIMI. The acronym stands for Alerts and Instant Messaging Interface. And what that means is that it's where all of your alerts can go to. So pop-up alerts and that type of thing run through AIME. And also it's an instant messaging interface as well. So if you see AIMI somewhere in the system, again, we refer to it as AIME. That is the Alerts and Instant Messaging Interface. You can find AIME in your toolbar most of the time. If you first open up OfficeTools, it opens with the program. It's down here at the bottom, looks like this little blue clock. If you click on that, it is this window right here. So this is the AIME program. You can see that it has today's task, task past due. It explains the acronym right there. And you can also go to lobby and check out all of your instant messaging options here. So that's what AIME stands for. So if you see it inside of the program on a task or something like that, make sure you understand that that's what it's for. Alerts and instant messaging interface, pop-up reminders, instant messaging, all of that happens through AIME. One other thing about AIME, just real quick, if you need to access AIME and you don't see the blue clock icon in your taskbar, you can also go under your system tray here and you'll see that blue clock. You can click on it and show the AIME program once more. So if you happen to close it down and you don't see it in your taskbar, go ahead and go to your system tray and you should be able to pull it back up right from here. Okay. So that's kind of what AIME means, just to give you guys a little bit of background. If you hear us refer to it, Alerts and Instant Messaging Interface, AIME, that's what that is. Now, another thing that you guys will probably hear us say either in the demo or in an initial training or even throughout your training inside of OfficeTools, you'll hear us refer to OfficeTools as a single screen interface. And we want to make sure that you understand what that means because it lends itself to the benefit of our program. That is one of the major benefits, is us being a single screen interface. And what that means is that all of the functionality of OfficeTools is found on one screen. So this right here, the OfficeTools program, is a single screen interface. You interact with everything that you need to interact with from the same screen. If you switch tabs or you switch clients, there's not additional modules or anything else that opens up. It's all going to happen from the single screen. Now, that doesn't mean that you're not going to get little windows that come up here and there for specific functionality, but overall, what you're viewing and how you interact with the program is going to be on one screen right here. So if you hear us refer to single screen interface, that's kind of what that means. It means everything you need to do is all on one screen. Unlike some other software where, you open up the billing module and you open up the, scheduling module, and those are on different windows on different screens. Everything that you need is all on one area right here. Next term that I want to bring your guys' attention to is the activity list. This is something that is obviously very important for those of you guys who have used OfficeTools for any amount of time. A lot of people call it task list, checklist, whatever. The proper term for this piece of the program is called the activity list. You'll see that verbiage when you're assigning things. You'll see that verbiage in reporting. Activity list refers to this section down here at the bottom. So this is a staff-specific list of all of the activities, regardless of what type of activity it is, that's assigned to that staff member. So as you go through the program and you're assigning things and working with tasks like to-dos, calls, projects, they're all going to populate the activity list. So it's important to understand when you see that verbiage, you know where it is and what it's referring to. So the activity list is this section down here at the bottom. Staff-specific list of all of the tasks assigned to that staff member. Okay. Very important. One of the three major components of the OfficeTools program is that activity list. So again, drawing attention to it, it's the section down here at the bottom, activity list, and that's what it's called. Now, on top of the activity list, what you guys will also know that we talk about a lot, if you've ever talked with any of our trainers or listened to any of our videos, or read any of our user guides, you'll hear us quote the term tabs. And it's important to understand what that is and where those are located because that is a driving force of the program itself. Okay. So when we refer to tabs, we're referring to these things right here. If you guys have ever seen those yellow manila folders, you sit in the little drawer and they have those things where you put the sticker on it so that you can see what's in those folders. Those are tabs. You guys are familiar with that. That's what that's set to emulate. So when you guys are looking to work within the program, you're going to choose a specific tab that you want to be in, and that's kind of what you're going to be viewing here in the main screen. So contacts, notes, to-dos, calls, schedule, projects, time, billing, documents. Those are the tabs that exist within the program. Now, one beneficial thing about the tabs is that they don't change. They're not reordered, meaning that you can always rely on those tabs right there being always the same. So you always have those 9 tabs that exist up there at the top, and you won't have any surprise additions. They won't move around and reorder. They're always going to go contacts, notes, to-dos, calls, schedule, projects, time, billing, documents. Okay. And that's, again, what we refer to as the tabs. One major thing as far as definitions that I want to bring up is the difference, or the difference between a main contact and an additional contact or more contact. Okay. So inside of OfficeTools, when you go to the Contacts tab, there's a contact that exists right here. So Templeton. Okay. And this is what we would consider the main contact. So it's important to understand what you're looking at. When you're looking at form letters and labels, when you're going into specific reports, the main contact is going to always be the person who's displayed here on the front of the Contacts tab. But just because we have one person here as the main doesn't mean we can't also have Devon or whoever else is located under Templeton and Devon here. Okay? So what we would call Devon or any other contact related to this person is an additional contact or a more contact. And those can be found right here. So if we go to the More Contacts button and we scroll over, we'll notice that Devon is labeled in here as an additional contact or more contact. Okay. So there is a very significant difference between the main and the additional or more contacts, in that the main contact will always display, whereas the additional contacts or more contacts will always be located in the More Contacts button. So anybody under the main entity that you have selected is always going to be considered an additional or more contact. Okay. So as you guys are going through the program, make sure you understand the difference, because you will see references to main contacts and alt contacts, or main contacts and more contacts. So just make sure you know what those two things mean. Sticking with that same type of structure here, we have 2 different naming structures within a client. We have what's called a file as name, and we also have what's called a print as name. And those two are very different, but sometimes aren't very distinguishable. So I want to draw your attention to it so that you can isolate what the main or what the file as name is versus the print as name. So on the Contacts tab here, you can see that print as right there. So that's obvious what that one is. And if you go to an individual, which is what we happen to be on right now, you can see that Templeton and Devon Augusta is the print as name. So in most cases, for an individual or a personal client or contact, they're going to be first name, last name here. Whereas the file as name is not labeled on the screen, but it's still imperative to understand what that is. The file as name is going to be these red letters up here at the top. Now, why this is so important is that file as name will also be referred to as company name. But you can see that even though this is an individual contact, they technically still have a quote-unquote company name or file as name. Okay? So if you're running a report and you see company name, understand that it's referring back to this field, the red letters, and we call that the file as. And it's called file as because that is actually how it's filed in your contact list over here on the left. So you can see last name, comma, first name is how this is filed over here on the left-hand side, file as. And then print as is labeled print as because if you printed it on labels or envelopes or on invoices, that type of thing, anything you print out that goes to the client, it will use the print as name instead. So understanding the difference between those two is obviously very important. For company name, for businesses, you can see that in a lot of cases, the print as and the file as name will be the same. So they don't have to be different, but for individuals, they will most likely end up being last name, comma, first name for your file as, and then first name, comma, last name for your print as. A couple other things I want to bring your attention to, what we call the contact card. And we want to define this because it's very important. The contact card is located on the left-hand side, right beneath the contact list. So here's our contact list. So this little square right here, this blue square, this is what we call the contact card. The contact card is important because it displays basic contact information, including phone numbers, main contact, email address, account number, account manager, for the selected client or contact in that contact card, regardless of the tab that you have selected across the top. So if you go to projects, but you need to call or email the client, you can have that information at your fingertips in the contact card without switching back to the contacts tab. So it's a good idea to understand what that contact card is. That way you know how to utilize it. So contact card is this square here located right beneath the contact list. Now, within the contact card, we also have a term called contact message. And contact message can be accessed by right-clicking into the contact card. And this is just a quick little blurb that you can set in, let's just say, expired credit card. That way, anytime anybody looks at this contact, they'll see that message in there. Okay. So if you see those red letters in the contact card and you're wondering what it's called or how to access it, that is considered the contact message inside of OfficeTools. So we're going to jump over to the Notes tab to cover a couple more definitions here. What we get a lot of questions on is, hey trainer, what's the difference between summary and view all? So you'll notice over here we have a summary button and we also have a view all button. So if we go to summary, we'll see all of the notes for this client in a list view, all of the notes. But if we go to the detail view and we go to view all, we'll also see all of the notes for that client in a list view. Here's the difference, and they're easily defined. The summary button located in the Notes tab is for all notes that have been entered into the Notes tab directly. Okay. So you're not going to get notes from any other section of the program, only notes that were entered into the Notes tab. But there's also notes in to-dos, in calls, appointments, projects, time cards. Okay. There's notes in a lot of different areas of OfficeTools. That's where the View All button comes into play. So the View All button is going to show you all of the notes from any tab that they've been entered in. Now, it's important to understand one thing about these. Both the summary and the View All buttons have to do directly with the contact that you have selected. So they're still client specific. The View All button isn't pulling in all the notes for any contact ever. It's only going to pull in the notes for the client that you have selected on the left. Okay. So the summary button is for notes in the Notes tab, and then the View All button is for all notes for that client. Now let's define what to-dos and phone calls are. This is a very important definition to understand so that you can start figuring out what to put in those tabs. So the easy, quick definition of a to-do and a phone call is a single step, single staff member activity. One person doing one thing. It's not getting passed around the office. There is no second step or third step. It is simply somebody sitting down, performing the action, and once that action is finished, it is completed. For example, you can see we have a to-do down here on my activity list that says make copies of 4 years returns. So somebody's going to do that. They're going to make those copies and they're going to give them to the client. There isn't more than one step. They do it, they finish it, and it's done. That's what we consider a to-do or a phone call. Now, alternatively, a project, which is located over here, can be defined as a multiple step, multiple staff member activity. So for things like tax returns or accounting work or sales tax or IRS tax notices, those types of things that have multiple steps involved, multiple people involved, those are going to be called projects. And it's very important to understand the definition of to-dos and calls versus projects, because it's going to help you decide where do you put the tasks that you need to assign. Do you put it in the to-dos and calls section, or do you go ahead and stick it in the projects because it's something that has multiple steps involved or multiple staff involved? So single step, single staff refers to-dos and calls, whereas multiple step, multiple staff member refers to projects. Next thing that I want to cover with you guys is a couple fields back on the contacts tab. We have this contact type field, and we also have an entity type field. And I want to bring your attention to these because it's very important. Contact type in OfficeTools decides, obviously what type of contact they are. OfficeTools isn't just a program, a system that helps you track clients. It's also meant to help you track anybody that you guys deal with on a professional level. That includes things like vendors, that includes things like prospects, that includes things like professional business relationships that you have, maybe where you refer your clients to an attorney or something like that. We want you to maintain OfficeTools as an entire contact list. There's no reason to have OfficeTools and also have another CRM. So utilizing the contact type field to help you differentiate between clients, vendors, prospects, so on and so forth is very important. So it's absolutely imperative you know what that field is, where it is, and what it means. Okay. So right on the contacts tab, contact type, client, vendor, prospect, so on and so forth. This is a set field, meaning that you cannot add options to this or take away options from this. So it's a set list that you have to pick from what we already have in there. Beneath that, you should see a field called entity type, and this is just an additional label, not as imperative as the contact type, but still very helpful when it comes to reporting, segregating your client list so that you can get isolated information. The entity type field is going to be where you specify this client is a corporation, or this client is an S corp, or this is an individual, or this is a partnership. So on and so forth down the line, you can decide what type of entities you're going to service. Now, this is cross-industry, so if you happen to be working in an industry other than the tax industry, you can add options to this list and make it tailored to your firm. So if you're a school, you can have students, you can have that type of thing inside of here. But understand that it's just meant as a sub-level of the contact type. So if you have a client, what type of client are they? Are they an individual? Are they a S corp? Now, the entity type shouldn't be used to specify the services that you do for them. So you don't want to put things in this list like bookkeeping client or tax client, right? That's going to come with the project section. Okay, you want to leave it to more what type of entity they are. Are they an S corp, so forth and so on. And that's important to understand the difference between those two things. Okay. Now, has anybody heard of the term undock? So undock is a very common term that we refer to. It applies to two different parts of OfficeTools, but it's a very helpful and very, very overlooked piece of the program. Undocking refers to two things. It refers to the activity list, and it refers to the calendar. So undocking means, if you look down here at the bottom, okay, we can go down to this little symbol here. It looks like the little box with another little box. And you'll notice that it pulls my activity list open into its own window. That's called undocking. Okay. So you can have this, you can pull this onto another screen. You can have this opened up a little bit more information so you can see more items on your activity list. But undocking just means that it's pulling it out of the program and into its own window. You can do the same thing on the schedule. You can see this little icon right here. Allows you to pull the schedule open, and you can actually see multiple calendars at the same time, unlike the docked view where you're stuck at one. Now, the undocked views of everything are still live, so if you add or complete things off of the undocked activity list or calendar, it will push just as if you did it in the actual program itself. All right, so we have a couple questions here I'm going to address since we have about 5 minutes left. So we have a question here that says, where would you put IRS revenue officer or auditor? Separate contact or more contacts for a phone call or deadline? So if you have, those types of things that come up where you're dealing with IRS officers or you're dealing with a specific person at a business that directly relates to another contact, or you might relate to multiple contacts, we recommend that you put those in as its own separate contact in your contact list. That way you can use that contact for more than one person. If you put it in as an additional contact, it will sit under the contact that you're working on. If you're working on an IRS audit for Avamba, and you put the IRS officer under that contact, you won't be able to use it again. So in the case where you have a contact that is kind of more generic, but could be used in multiple places, we recommend that you put in something like IRS officer, and then under that you have your officers there. That way you can use them for more than one contact, and it's not sitting under that specific entity, muddying it up. So couple other things I want to bring up to you guys as far as definitions go to fill up our time here. If we jump to the Documents tab, there's a little thing I want to refer to here. It's called cross-folder search and merge. You might hear us say that. You might read it in our user guides, and most people, that just goes right over the top of their head. They don't understand what that means, and I didn't understand what it meant when I first learned it. But it will help you kind of understand the way that our document management works. So cross-folder search and merge, what this means is that when you're in OfficeTools and you have your documents in the Documents Management tab here, the documents themselves are not actually stored within our program. They're stored on your server. You should know that. You should have set it up if you're using the Documents tab. You know where the files are actually located, somewhere on your server, okay? Not actually within the program. So when you're going into OfficeTools and you're searching for things, or you're finding things, or you're pulling things up, you're utilizing links, shortcut links that refer back to the location on your server. So in this case, you can see that it's located on the K drive, OT Documents, Avamba, so on and so forth. So it's on a K drive. Now, cross-folder search and merge, what that means is when you go in here and you're utilizing your years, your projects, and your categories, you're searching through different folders and merging your findings into this window here. So what that means is that in a typical Windows folder structure, you have to go in order. You have to know the year first, and then the project, and then the category, and then you'll find your file in that structure. But in OfficeTools, you can skip to any layer that you like, and this program will cross-folder, means go through all of the folders, find anything that fits your criteria that you've stated, and merge it into this window. So for example, if we go into category, which is the last level in our folder structure, and we search for email sent, it's going to go in and find any document that is labeled with the category called email sent. Even if they're different years or different projects, which come first in your hierarchy, it's still going to pull them into one window and get rid of everything else. That's called the cross-folder search and merge. Okay? So that just means, again, it pulls things based on criteria instead of the folder structure itself. The last thing we're going to talk about real quick before we wrap up is you'll notice that we call things global options. You'll hear us refer to global options a lot. And most people go, well, where is global options? So when we refer to global options, what we are saying is go to the setup menu, go to My Company, and then Information and Settings. So when you hear us say global options or My Company info, that's where we're asking you to go. This is where all of your global options for your database are stored. So set up My Company, information and settings. That's where all of your global options are located. So again, anytime you see global options or global defaults or that type of thing, they're going to be stored under My Company, information and settings. That's our time today, guys. I hope you guys gleaned some good information out of this. You can start building your vocabulary on what Office Tools means, some of the terminology that we use, help you connect what you hear to what you see, and I hope that in the long run you guys can put that to good practice. If you guys do need anything, please email us at the training team here, training@officetools.com. Anything that you guys need, just send that over to us and we'll get back to you. Thanks again for joining us today. Please take a look at abacusnext.com/webinars to see the webinars that are coming up. Sign up and we'll see you guys next time. Thanks a lot.